Welcome back everyone, my name is Bessel and today we are continuing our hike over the island of Jersey. Now we are starting off near the village of Saint Lawrence, and today we will be walking to Saint Brelade, which is a village a little bit that way. And this hike will be some 20 kilometers, and in the meantime we will also be visiting the Jersey war tunnels, but more on that when we actually get there. Now as we approach the Jersey war tunnels, it is time to speak a little bit about the history of the Channel Islands, because even though they are part of the unofficial part of the United Kingdom, they have also been a part of France throughout history. And during the Second World War, the Germans took over for a few years, making it the only part of the United Kingdom that was ever occupied by the Germans. In June of 1940, the United Kingdom decided to demilitarize the Channel Islands because they were deemed indefensible and not strategic enough. On the Channel Islands, 25,000 Channel Islanders were evacuated to the mainland of the United Kingdom. Shortly after the demilitarization, the Channel Islands were occupied by the Germans. And the Germans built more than a kilometer of tunnels, mostly through forced labor. And these tunnels are the Jersey war tunnels. Originally, the Jersey war tunnels were intended to be a bunker as a part of the Atlantic Wall, but in 1943 it was converted to an underground hospital with 500 beds and a functioning air conditioning. On May 9th, 1945, the Channel Islands were freed by the Allied forces without the use of violence. After a while, we reach Bay of St. Albin again, and over there you can see Castle Elizabeth from a different perspective than yesterday. And over there you can also see the capital of Jersey, Saint Helier. Now in that direction the coastline looks a lot more rugged and has a lot more cliffs. So near that is the village of Saint Brelade, and that is where we will be going today. But first, as you can see, it's low tide, and that means that we're lucky. Over there is Fort St. Albin, and that is just like Castle Elizabeth, only reachable at low tide. So if it stays low tide for, well, I expect half an hour, then we will be able to visit Castle St. Albin. But I don't expect any difficulties there. As we walk along the beach, I want to draw your attention to this. Now, I have seen that there's a lot of these things here on the floodline, and well, they are quite well known, but for those who don't know what this is, these are the remains of the shell of a cuttlefish, which is a small type of squid with a fairly flat striped body. And these remains of the shells are often given to, for example, parrots and parakeets to make sure they get enough calcium in their food, which is really nice if you ask me. Now I wouldn't eat it, but it's very hard, so I can only imagine it being as a good source of calcium. Anyway, let's continue. During low tide, we have made our way to Fort Saint Brelade over here. Now the fortress itself is quite old already. It was built in the 16th to 18th century, and yeah, back then it was still quite the fortress with actually a military function. In the Victorian era, it became a summer residence, and during the German occupation of the Channel Islands, the castle became a part of the infamous Atlantic Wall, meaning that it essentially became an untakeable part of Jersey and the western border of the back then the German Empire. So at the peninsula at Noirmont, we have quite the view over the south coast of the island of Jersey. And if we look southward, we can see not only the rocky cliffs that make up a large part of Jersey's coastline, but we can also see in the very distance the French coast, which is probably not visible on camera, but in real life you can actually see it over 50 kilometers away from here. And if we look a little more this way, we see one of the military batteries that the Germans placed here to, yeah, as they called it, protect the island from the Allied forces. Yeah, I like the view here. Very close to the last viewpoint, we reach Portland Bay here. So behind that rocky outcrop, there is also a beach, which is one of the most famous beaches of Jersey. And yeah, the cliffs here are a nice, what could it be, 70 meters? So the cliffs are not as high as on the north side of the island, but it is still a very beautiful view from here. So along our route we find yet another bay, and this time it's the Bay of Saint Brelade, meaning that that village on top of the cliff that you see over there, that is where we will be going today. Now between us and that beach over there is still Wayne Beach, which I am also going to see. Shortly before reaching the village of Saint Brelade, we reach the Corbière railway walk. This is a hiking trail that comes from Saint Aubin on that side and goes all the way to the Corbière on the very southwest of the island. The history of this path is quite interesting, since it used to be an old railway track, which opened in 1883, but was last used during the Second World War. Anyway, since we're almost at Saint Brelade, I think it's time to end the episode here. So I hope you enjoyed it. Stay safe, stay healthy, and I will see you all next time.